Hi everyone, Dan Tortora here of Wake Up Call, and we are at ACC Kickoff for 2022. Very happy to be here today with you, and always happy to speak with Scottie Rodgers here, the Director of Communications with the Cotton Bowl Classic. And you've been with the Cotton Bowl for a long time and came in as the Director of Communications for the Cotton Bowl Classic, one of the most storied bowls in the history of college football, and that back in 2020. So a couple years as the Director of Communications, and obviously a part of the bowl for a long time. And always good to have you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora.
Glad to be here, Dan.
So Scottie, I mean, you have the opportunity, and I've known this throughout the years, a better part of a decade, that when these conferences put on the kickoff events, that as someone who's representing a bowl, you get to go out and shake hands and meet coaches and different teams, and to just build those relationships and build those bonds, and just what that's like for you to network at events like this.
It's really important for us because it shows that we're out and getting to know all of our partners that we deal with, whether it's the teams, whether it's the conferences, and obviously some of our own bowl partners. You know, we sit down, and especially amongst our New Year's Six, we sit down and have conversation about some policies and things that we're doing, and we share best practices and try to make sure that we use that opportunity where we're in the same place to learn.
And you had said off the air when we were talking about this that you used to be able to go out and recruit, right, who you're going to bring in for your games, but now this new model and having a New Year's Six bowl, you're told who's going to be coming in. What's that life been like to transition from figuring out who would be a good fit as opposed to finding out from someone saying, hey, whether you think it fits the mold or not, this is the game that you have, so you got to make it work?
You know, I haven't experienced the recruiting as much in my time because I was that wasn't a part of my role. As you mentioned, I have a long history with the bowl game. I volunteered for 21 years before I came on board in the last two. So, but what I remember from those who were working with the bowl at the time, you know, was going to games in the regular season, you know, making those calls and having relationships with folks. Folks would call them as they would get to a certain stage in their season, you know, to talk to them about, you know, what the bowl game, what the structure of that particular year was going to look like. So it's very different. Now we find out, you know, when it's announced on TV, we find out when the world finds out. So we have to be prepared. We obviously look at the CFP rankings, so we have some idea or some thoughts and our own thoughts, and you know, we look at the prognosticators out there who say what they think, and some of them are sometimes pretty good and some of them are not. And I think it's for us now, it's just really important to be prepared that whatever teams that we have, that we're prepared for them to come in town and give them the experience that we're known for, from a hospitality standpoint, from an operations standpoint, and making sure that the media that's coming in and covering the event is going to have a first-class opportunity to enjoy the experience, but most importantly for that group, do their job.
What makes the Cotton Bowl Classic different? What is it that you believe kind of stands out on its own with so many bowl games and so many different opportunities? Why do you feel the Cotton Bowl Classic is unique?
We're unique because we got our own little special secret sauce. You know, I can't give you all the sauce. I can't give you that recipe. I can't give all of it. But it's built upon being good to people. It's built upon listening to what the teams need. You know, we've had to adjust and make sure that we hear from them as year to year. We have things that we want to do, and sometimes some of those things just doesn't match with the flow of that year, of that team that may be coming in, so you have to adjust them slightly. You know, we want to make sure, our goal is to make sure everyone from the president to the GA that's there, that they're going to have a good bowl experience, that everybody that's connected to that team, fans as well, that they're going to have a good bowl experience, and for the teams especially, create an environment that lets them have an opportunity to do the things they need to do. Enjoy being in the city, enjoy what things they can see and be a part of, you know, affect the community through our opportunities that we set up for them to go to our children's hospitals that are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then making sure that when they go to practice in Arlington at AT&T Stadium or wherever they may go, or when they're coming in for game day and getting prep for that game day, that they have everything they need to make sure that they're going to be able to compete at the highest level, and they're going to be hopefully be able to do it without a lot of issues as far as logistics and everything, because many times they're coming there and it's a new building. AT&T Stadium is big, it's something complicated, so coming into a hotel, and that's complicated, and we just make sure we surround them with people that have a help first mindset. We want to be very helpful, but we also want to do it at the right distance too. That's really important too, because they're used to operating in their own bubble.
Yeah.
But our job is to help them do that job, so maybe they don't have to work as hard to get certain things done, and they can actually enjoy it.
What would you consider to be the most challenging part of your job as Director of Communications with the Cotton Bowl Classic?
Well, the last couple of years, we've obviously had to throw out the playbook from how we've managed our media operations because of the pandemic and what we've had to do differently, with everything for the last 2 years being virtual. 2 years ago, we knew it was going to be virtual, and we played that way. And this past year, we found out less than 24 hours that we had to make that change. But luckily, we had that experience the previous year to come in, and just learning what the sports media of today needs to do their job. So what we've done in the past, what I always like to say, my predecessor, Charlie Fisk, who's a Hall of Famer, what I like to say is that I want to take the spirit of some of the things that he did, and many of those things we're going to keep doing the same, and some of those things we got to do them differently. But the goal is, by doing them differently, doesn't mean I just want to do them differently. What I want to do is do them in the same spirit, but do them to match the type of workflow, the type of needs today's media person needs to do their job, because it's so changing and it's so unique. So you have to look at it a little differently. So learning what that is.
Yeah.
Coming to these events like Media Days is a perfect opportunity. We can have a conversation. I can have a conversation with a writer, with someone that works at a radio station, with someone that works at a TV or a website podcast, and learn the different things, so we can take that in and use that information to help us to make those tweaks to our media operation, to make sure that we're doing the best possible job that we can do to help them do their job.
Scottie Rodgers here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. We're here at ACC Kickoff Week, and Scottie comes to us from the Cotton Bowl Classic as the Director of Communications. The world of college football and collegiate athletics is getting very interesting, and as someone who gets to ask questions at events like this, which I thank God for every single day, and tell anybody out there, hard work, dedication, determination, and a whole lot of faith and belief and love for yourself can get you anywhere. So don't ever think you can't. Faith, hard work, and just doing what you love and loving what you do go a long way, folks, and don't ever let anybody stop you. And, with some of the questions in the world that we live in today, behind every conference is realignment, is NIL, the transfer portal, the NCAA's Transformation Committee, the NCAA's Constitution Committee. How are you looking at this as a fan of collegiate athletics and as someone who's connected to it so closely, and obviously with college football? When you're around a day like today and an event like this, you hear people talking all day about realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, and everything else going on.
Well, our job, since we're not as close to it as everybody else, whether you're at the school level or you're at the conference level, so we do a lot of listening, do a lot of learning, frankly. From an NIL standpoint, that's something that we've had some conversation. They had the great the summit earlier this year in Atlanta. And we had a couple of our staff members go to that to learn. We're trying to learn, because it may not right now affect the bowl space specifically, but that's coming. And it may be this year, and it may be this season, and I don't know exactly what that looks like, but we're going to figure it out, and we want to make sure that we're at the front of that, and make sure that we're doing something that makes sense not only for us, but makes sense for our teams and obviously the student athletes as it relates to that. Another piece of space is the NFT space. That's something that we're talking about and trying to learn more about. How do we take all this great history that we have and put it in some sort of form that can be in that NFT space, and engage with student athletes, engage with fans, engage with folks who just love college football in different ways. We got to So we're doing our fact finding, we're doing our listening and learning and reading and making sure that we do that so that we can do the right thing that matches for the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. That's the number one thing that we have to make sure we do when it comes to these new things. How does that fit for us? Because what happens for us may not be what another bowl game may do. So that's really our biggest point. And these types of gatherings are really good for just honestly sitting back and listening and asking some questions of my old brethren, some of the folks that we know at different schools, and obviously the folks here at the ACC. It's a great way for us to get engaged and kind of get a pulse as we jump into this season and, a little over, 6-8 weeks away.
And you talked about the NFT space, and for those who don't know, just what you could say about why that's important.
Well, that's a unique touch point that you can now have with fans, because you can give them a piece of your history. You can share that with them. You can do it in a collectible kind of way. That's a major thing for us. And when you have your archives, your digital archives, whether that's your video or past games, whether that's the photos that you have, that you can bring some life back to those in that space and let people reminisce about games that they attended. One of the great things about our bowl game, like I'm sure a lot of others, there's families that have been going to that game for decades, and the grandfather passed it down, has passed it down, yeah. And they have tickets, and going to the game is something that is a part of their, right around New Year's Eve, holiday time tradition. So how can we engage with them in a different way through that whole technology that is out there? And it's something that we'll figure it out soon, at some point, probably sooner rather than later, and it'll be a unique way for us to showcase our brand.
We speak on college football and where we're heading as part of the New Year's Six group and in rotation with the College Football Playoff. Mm-hmm. You were rotated in this past season, and you and I got to connect, as you said, having to do things differently. So virtually I had the opportunity to still do my job, watch the game, and get to interview Alabama and Cincinnati, and thank you for the opportunity from you and your team with the Cotton Bowl Classic to give us those avenues to continue to do our job in an ever-changing world. So looking at the College Football Playoff, speaking of ever-changing world, you're in that rotation. You're a part of that. You have that space in the semifinal and whatnot. So if there is an expansion, what do you know about what happens to the bowls, and do you stay within that? Do they bring in other bowl games? I mean, what's been the conversation on how to expand a college football playoff while still obviously keeping your membership within it and making sure the Cotton Bowl Classic has representation?
One of the things that we've said, those decisions are going to be made, and they may talk to us about it before they make it, and they may not. But all we can do is position ourselves to be in the best possible position to be considered in whatever new structure may happen. I think for us in particular, I think we showcased ourselves in a way that is probably going to be one of the most unique ways that you can ever do that. When we got the call in early December to tell us, oh, by the way, 2 years ago when we were hosting our game, well, 2 days later you're going to host the Rose Bowl, which, by the way, is the College Football Playoff Semifinal. So the fact that we were able to pivot so quickly as an overall staff, and all the people that we have involved with us, and folks that help us out for our game every year, many of them could, raised their hand very quickly and said, hey, I'll work the Rose Bowl as well. And we were able to duplicate our efforts in a lot of ways because we kind of had it. And I think for us, that showcases what we can do. And by doing that, that puts us in the best possible position in whatever is going to be decided upon, whatever the format is going to be, to give us, because we, in essence, not to brag, we showed everybody, look, we can handle it. You want to give us a semifinal? We can handle it. You want to give us the national championship game, which Arlington and Dallas was the host of the first one? We can handle it. Yeah. So, that's all we can do, and I think we let that speak for itself.
And when you look at the world today, with so many bowl games and so many opportunities, and more than 50% of teams playing in the postseason, and in some situations a team has been 4-8 before, 5-7, because you have to fill spaces. How do you stay relevant as a bowl when there are so many bowls that, and there's some that go away, but it's ballooned to this opportunity now where it's great to have a postseason. It's great for schools. You get more money. There's gifts that go to the student athletes. They get the experience. The fans get another game. The schools have another thing to promote, more money to make in that respect. And there's more practices, and you get to know, and you can play some guys that you're going to be using maybe next season. So there's a lot of positives that come from that. But with so many bowl games out there in general, have we diluted the postseason?
That's a great question, and for us in particular, I will answer, from our viewpoint, we stayed relevant by making sure that as our history evolved, we looked at the opportunity to advance where we were in that bowl placement, and then obviously with the move to AT&T Stadium, with the great relationship, our organization have with the Jones family and the folks that are with the Dallas Cowboys and AT&T Stadium, that allowed us to take our game to the next level. Taking our game to the next level and our whole experience to the next level allowed us to get the tag of being a part of the New Year's Six. So for us, we feel like we've gotten that point because we made that was again before I got on staff, but the very smart people made some strategic moves and some tough moves and some tough decisions, but those decisions have paid off. And I think now what we do in that space amongst that New Year's Six is to continue to make sure that we stay true to who we are and that secret sauce that we have, but at the same time also making sure that we try to be on the cutting edge. We talk about in our mission to be one of the innovative bowl games that are out there and have some of the most unique experiences, like once in a lifetime experience. We have to do that by evolving. We have to do that by making sure that we continue to bring those experiences. So I think for a lot of other bowls, they have to figure out how to do that in their community, under their structure. And one size does not fit all. One approach does not fit all.
Yeah.
So they have to kind of figure that out based upon where they're from. But for us, it's been a huge for us, absolutely. And I just we look forward to the future, and we feel like we're best positioned to be a part of whatever is going to come out, however it's going to be structured. We feel like we can stand up against anybody out there about what we can do and what we can bring as far as a high-level bowl experience for all the entities that's going to be a part of it.
I know you said you can't give the ingredients to the secret sauce, but how do you stay relevant in today's ballooned bowl postseason that we have? You talk about, you feel that you position yourselves well. People that have come before you, you thought the leadership was good in decisions that were being made, and you feel confident whatever happens to the College Football Playoff that you'll be a part of it. I don't want you to tell me everything, but can you tell me something that sticks out to you when you're making a truly memorable, once-in-a-lifetime experience for fans, for media, for the teams? What is maybe one thing that you feel like the Cotton Bowl Classic does that you're not just another bowl game?
One of the places that we really excel is in our hospitality. The hospitality that we create for the teams in their headquarters hotel, hospitality that we create for our media, that's something that's really important to us, because that gets to from the team side, it is priority number one almost, to make sure that they come into that hotel that they're going to be in for 5, 6, 7, 8 days based upon how the calendar falls, and they're going to be as comfortable as they possibly can be. They're going to be able to do the things they need to do to make sure that their student athletes and everybody within their party are taken care of. Whether that is the student athletes, whether that's the coaches, whether that's the staff and and some of the support staff, whether that's the families of all those people.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we do that in a way that is really important to them, and listening to, instead of, maybe over-programming a week for them and saying, oh, we're going to take you here and show you this because we have these great things. Maybe you step that back just a touch and give them an opportunity to have that fellowship and that time that they want to have together, as a team, and use that experience and use that knowledge to create that. Because I think that's really important. Because at that point, especially when we're every year, but this past year was a semifinal year. So that every third year, the other 2 years, because obviously they're playing to play on to something else, to the CFP National Championship. Yeah. So it's important for us, to use that example in that year. We need to set up the schedule and everything and the requirements and the obligations and the things we want to do in a way that fits, so that they can experience what they're going to experience, stay focused on what they want to stay focused on, making sure they're getting ready to play that game at the highest level because they're playing for a national championship, and make sure then that they can, when that game is over, win or lose, they can collect themselves and get themselves out of town in the most efficient and safest possible way for all the people that's related in their party, because that's really important. Obviously, one team is moving on to play in the national championship, one team is not. And but we want to make sure for both of them that they're leaving town in a way that they need to get things done and get back to their campuses safe and sound.
And you speak on campus. Before I let you go, you are a University of Alabama alum.
I am.
And you had the opportunity here with the semifinal for the College Football Playoff to have Alabama. What was that experience like for you? And do you fan out a little bit, and even just in your mind or in your heart go, wow, this is really something special to work in a space where you get to be around so many great coaches and institutions and conferences, but to have your alma mater come right there to your doorstep, and that you have the opportunity to show them hospitality after you experienced what life was like to be on their campus?
I have the unique opportunity in my first job out of college. I worked at the SEC office in Birmingham, and that was my first job, my first 5 years full-time in the business. Started as an intern and then got promoted. So for me, I got accustomed very early in my career about having to be around your school, that's your alma mater, and turning that switch off and looking at them just like another team. Yes, I'm an Alabama grad, and I'll sing that. I'll tell anybody I'm not ashamed of it, happy and proud of that. But when it comes to the business and now, for me that was over 25 years ago. So now to come around to this opportunity, and even before I came on staff, I think I had 2 or 3 games, Cotton Bowl Classics, where Alabama was in it, and they were there. I've worked 4 national championship games, and Alabama was in it, wins and losses. So, for me this coming year, you just have to look at it as like another team, and you want your team to do well, but you can't really, I try not to even focus on that, because if I let a little of that eke in, that just takes my focus off the big plan. The big plan is to execute, and it's been good. It's a challenge that I don't run from. It does make it. You obviously have a little twinge because it is the school that you went to, but I really just try to focus on doing the job, making sure that they're taken care of. Don't try to do anything overly extra, for them that you're not doing for the other team, and really treat them as equally as you're treating any other team that was going to be in your bowl game.
And the other team that was there, Cincinnati, the Cotton Bowl Classic got to make history as the glass ceiling that I don't think should have ever existed was broken through by Cincinnati and the American Athletic Conference. What was that like for you to know that the Cotton Bowl Classic, with all the history that you've had over decade upon decade, that you also have this history with the American Athletic Conference, with Cincinnati, and having Luke Fickell and his team come into town and change the landscape, expand the landscape of the college football playoff?
They were just wonderful to deal with. You're talking about a group. It gets us excited when we have a team like that come to our game for the first time. Then you're talking about a semifinal. Then you're talking about a team that comes in undefeated. You're talking about a team that's having the greatest year in their history, and they're coming to your game. If that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what does. Yeah. So, we wanted to make sure that they had an experience just like we wanted to make sure Alabama did. They had an experience that they can go back, that they will always be able to go back on, regardless of the score, that they can go back on and say, that was a wonderful experience. And I've been fortunate enough to see a couple of their folks at a couple of different places since that game, and I've gotten, they say, hey, we just had a great time, it was a great opportunity. They'll never forget that they didn't win the football game, but I will say that they lead with, we had a great experience. We'd love to come back, type of thing. That right there is something that that keeps all of us going, honestly, because you really look at that. We were a part of creating a memory that so many people that are a part of that program and part of that university will never forget. And that's special. And with everything else that's been going on in the world, I honestly feel like those types of things, you got to grab onto them just a little bit tighter and reminisce on them a little bit tighter and smile about them a little bit more and tell a little bit more stories. Because we took a lot of stuff for granted before the pandemic hit. And I think now, and the fact that we were very fortunate to be able, while we're still in the pandemic, we were able to play our games in both years, and obviously have the Rose Bowl come in and run and help run the Big 12 championship game and have some game and have the A&M Arkansas game and Kansas State Stanford game. So we've been very fortunate. We've been able to have games in our building and help execute them. Obviously, our bowl game being the central point. And for the folks at Cincinnati, I hope every single one of them had a great time, and continue to sing our praises, and we hope to have them come back. And at whatever time that may be, this year we will have the Group of 5 champion in our game this year with probably a top 10, top 12 team in the country, which that could be the Group of 5 champion in that. So there's a chance that a Cincinnati, I'm not going to name any other teams to not go down that road, but a team from the American or the Sun Belt or the Mountain West or the Mid-American could come to our place for the game this year. And we're excited to have who that team is and have a great matchup. Our last two that we've had like that was Memphis, Penn State, and Western Michigan and Wisconsin. And I actually saw Coach Norvell here, and he left right before Memphis came to play in the game. He said the Memphis people won't. He said something along the lines of the Memphis people won't let me live down the fact that I wasn't going to be there, that I wasn't there. And I said, well, Coach, you with the Seminoles now? Well, come on. That's the type of those little anecdotes like that. That's the stuff that keeps us going, because those little anecdotes will live on.
Yeah, and I covered Mike Norvell his 4 seasons at Memphis, and since then coming to Florida State, and I got to speak with him here at the ACC kickoff as well. And the thing that I left him with from my time when the ACC championship was there at the Liberty Bowl is we talked for a few minutes, and the last thing I said to him, I said, hey, still the best barbecue chicken I've ever had was in Memphis. And I said, and I let people know. And he smiled and he was like, I told you, type of thing. And so it's always great to stay within those connections and that networking. And that's my final point that I want to make is you and I have met through this, and this world of, these are my beliefs. Being a good person, having a strong faith for me personally, but having a strong faith, know that it doesn't just come from me. Being a good person, being honest, being genuine, and doing what you love and loving what you do. I don't go into the TV room and ask questions to everybody I possibly can because I want to hear myself. I do it because I want to build bridges. I want to network. And if I didn't ask questions to these student athletes and these coaches, I wouldn't have the relationships I have. Whereas Steve Adazio calls me now that he's at Texas A&M working for Jimbo Fisher, and something happened within my family, and I didn't even know that he would even think twice about it, and he called me simply to congratulate me. Nothing to do with football, nothing to do with an interview or anything recorded. He was on his way to Cape Cod, and he said, my son Louis called me, and I wanted to call you, and I wanted to congratulate you personally. And it was only a conversation about appreciating life, valuing relationships, and making the most out of the time you have with the people you love. And those don't come without putting the work in, and I feel like, just being a good person, networking, and, trying to share your light with the world, I think that's the way to do it.
Absolutely, and to that end, congratulations on your anniversary for your organization and everything you guys have been doing. That's great.
10 years today
10
that
years
I'm sitting here with Scottie.
Absolutely, and I want to make sure to say that while we were having our conversation. And I agree with everything you said, making genuine relationships and connecting with folks. That's something that I feel like I do very well. It's just a natural thing to me. It's the person that I am. And that's really important to me, because those relationships, you just never know. Like you said, it's not about being on an interview or getting an interview or whatever the case may be. It's about making sure that you connect with folks, and you just never know where you're going to find an opportunity to either sit down and have a discussion like this, or you pick up the phone, like you said, and congratulate somebody, or give them some kind words when they need them, or is just to go sit down and share a meal and tell stories and talk about college football, college athletics, or whatever other interests or topic in the world.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, and I want to thank Fred Reed's wife, because Fred just passed away. I was at Eastern Michigan. I think this is going to be year number 8. And we met when he was at Syracuse, and we had built a strong relationship. And you talk about those difference makers. Well, they named the staff room after Fred Reed, and his picture's up. And I got a text message at I don't even know what it was, maybe 10 o'clock at night. And it was from his wife, and she said, I wanted to send you this because I felt like Fred would want you to see it. Thank you for all the nice words you've said about him over the years. And I cried. I stood in my kitchen and I cried, because I don't think people fully understand the weight of the bonds and the relationships. And as you know, Scottie, I hope you know, when you're talking to me, yeah, we're going to talk about football, we're going to talk about sports and the Cotton Bowl Classic and whatnot. But I also want to know what music you listen to, and I want to know, the movies, and, who's the person in your life that you emulate the most? What is it about getting up in the morning that you appreciate? What's something that in the last 2 years you thought to yourself, hey, I really didn't appreciate that thing, but now I do more? Yeah. I think people want to work with people that they like to be around and talk to.
Absolutely.
And, again, to just pound the pavement home, I mean, I'm here, and I tell people all the time, I said, if there's 14 teams, 20 teams, 3 teams, I want to make sure when those coaches and players leave the building that they know somebody cares about them and somebody wants to see them doing well. I said it to Jeff Halfley today. He said, thanks for asking the 3 questions. And I looked at him, I said, well, Coach, I want to know about Boston College, and I'm watching. I want you guys to do well. And, when they succeed, I'll be able to go back to Coach Halfley and say, congratulations. Just like I got to do with Dave Doran today of NC State and Dave Clausen of Wake Forest. I said even when it's not popular, I defended those gentlemen, and I didn't know them from Adam, but I wanted them to do well. I saw what they were building, and really, when it comes down to it, you want to touch lives, and I always tell people your currency when you go to heaven is your soul. It's how you treated people. And you really have to take into account the memories that you're making and the time that you're spending. So if I'm in a room of 500 people, I want to make 500 friends. And if somebody doesn't want to be, it doesn't mean I'm not going to shake your hand and at least make the attempt.
Absolutely. Everything you said, spot on. That's why we come to, as a bowl representative, we come to these types of gatherings so that we can see some of the coaches that's been in our game, coaches that we don't know or we haven't seen them. And, I leave, every time I see a coach, I say, hey, we'd love to have you in the game. And I mean that because, we don't know who's going to come to our game. So, we don't know how the year's going to go. So my hope is that all these teams that are here in the ACC or any other conference media day that we go to, all of them that we go to, at some point they get their chance to experience what we do at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. And that's what we want to do. And we will treat whatever team we get just like we treat all the other teams. And that's why, you'll have coaches, you'll have a Dabo Swinney talking to, some of his colleagues, and he's like, hey, if you guys can go to the Cotton Bowl, go. That's because your folks are going to have a great experience. That's really important to us because they become advocates for us. They almost become mouthpieces for us, kind of, not that we ask them to be, they just do because they have such a great experience. And that's really important to us because, as the years continue to go on, we're going to continue to have different teams. And we want the people to know before they even get there, people are going to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, you know what? If you're going to go to Arlington and you're going to go be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, you're going to have a great experience. Your wives are going to have a great experience. Your student athletes are going to have a great experience. Your fans are going to have a great experience.
Yeah.
So here's some things you can do. Here's some things I wish we had done when we were there, or don't do this because, they didn't really, whatever the case may be. I think that's going to be really important. And, I'm just excited for where we are and hopefully where we can continue to grow, because college football is changing. And I hope one of the things that don't change is what we do as a part of the global college football experience. And that's what we do at the bowl level.
That coming here from Scottie Rodgers, I said, want to get to know you off the field. So there's a thing I've done in my show for many years here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cuball Studios, and that is called Rapid Fire. So you're going to get one, I'm going to get one. We can ask each other anything in the world, but we have to answer it, and it's going to be outside of the world of sports. You can go first.
What's your favorite band or artist?
Okay, so I'm going to throw a lot of things at people, and I like all kinds of music. So, favorite boy band growing up, and I wanted to be a part of them. I watched them on Making the Band, O-Town.
O-Town.
And I would say Journey, Boys to Men, probably my all-time favorite of everything. Journey and Boys to Men, but I probably say Boys to Men because I was working in a restaurant that they came to. And I must have moved the silverware back and forth 100 times just to walk by Wanye Morris. So, yeah, I think Boys to Men's definitely got that. But I listened to, I would say most of the time, hip-hop, R&B, country. So I like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's good.
My one for you, Scotty. If you could sit at a dinner table and eat with any three people, living or have passed on, who and why?
Wow, that is tough. I'm gonna go with, Martin Luther King,
Okay.
Barack Obama, I'm gonna also go with Michael Jordan, and probably my first favorite player, and probably still my favorite player, Tony Dorsett. I'm a big Dallas Cowboys fan, and Tony Dorsett was the guy that got me kind of connected. Yes, Danny White and Roger Staubach and all that, but love all those guys. But it was, I don't know what it was, but it was just Tony Dorsett that kind of got me going. That's an odd collection. I never thought about that question before. I might have to. That'll be a unique conversation. So.
It would. And I got to through Al Romano, who won a championship with Tony Dorsett at Pittsburgh. I got to interview Tony, and I asked him about his rivalry with Penn State, and he did not mince words. And he also did not abide by the family show approach.
No.
He had some thoughts.
He had some thoughts.
And we had some fun with it. And the Cowboys, I'm a Jaguar since day one, but the Cowboys, people that know me know that is my second favorite team. That's my NFC team. So we can equal each other on that. And I grew up very, very spoiled with Jay Novacek, as well as Daryl Moose Johnson from Syracuse, Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Larry Brown, Nate Newton, Leon Lett, Russell Maryland, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, Alvin Harper. So it was a different world back then.
It was a different world back then, and I've been a Cowboys fan since the '70s. I was born in the early-ish part of the '70s, so I've been a Cowboys fan since a young kid. I've been an Atlanta Braves fan since a young kid, and then as I'd probably say, going into the '80s, and I got into learning and knowing more about college football, I became an Alabama fan, and then when it came time to start thinking about going to college, it was definitely a school that I wanted to go to, and I remember being accepted. I think I still have like a keychain that I bought, like I think my 11th grade of 11th year of high school that I still have, that I, you know, had it all those years. But those years in Tuscaloosa were amazing. So I don't have an NBA team. I just never have. But those are the I just connected with my team and I just hung with them. And the Braves in the 80s were not a team that you wanted to watch a lot because they had some great players, but they did not win a lot of games. So, but then the 90 won the World Series and just did it again last year. So, you know, last year was an interesting year for all the sports, as the last couple of years and change have been. But pretty neat to see your team team that you follow and they win, you know, win it all and at whatever level.
Yeah, I have my Diamondbacks have won. Syracuse won in men's basketball. I had my Ducks win in the NHL. I had my Raptors win in the NBA. So, and I have Spanish background, Italian background. They both won World Cups while I've been alive, back to back. They've also won Euros. And so I'm waiting. I think at this point all I have left is I'm waiting on Jacksonville. And to you wonderful people here in Charlotte, North Carolina, for the ACC kickoff, I decided and I do this with a lot of teams so that there's no bandwagon yet. I became a Charlotte FC fan for the MLS, so I'm looking forward to what they can do.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's a unique thing, and I do watch a little soccer, so I'm gonna probably end up becoming an FC Dallas fan because they're there and obviously supporting them, one of the local teams in the area. But yeah, it's been, you know, I try to watch games even on a college football Saturday or an NFL Sunday. You know, even when I worked on a campus, I tried to make sure that I found time to let myself, you know, at home, be a fan.
Yeah.
Because being a fan continues to drive me to be a good professional, and being able to watch games just for the sake of watching and for fun, and you know, get to enjoy what people do. Because as you know, when you work in sports, we don't get the tailgate experience all the time. We don't get the road trips to games for just fun with folks, because many times we're going to games, we're doing it for work. Yeah. So we have to maintain that. So when I do have those limited opportunities to do that, or even just sitting at home and watching games, I do try to enjoy that, because to me that's really important. Because the day I don't feel like I don't know if there's ever going to be a day that I don't like sports, but you know, if it doesn't, the day that it doesn't really hit me the way that it continues to do, that's probably the day I need to decide to either do something else or hang it up. So, you know, I got a lot to go, and there's so much going on in this world and right now in college athletics, and you know, I look forward to, you know, seeing what happens and in some sort of way, and however that may be, you know, being a part of helping the change happen, or being an usher for it, or whatever that may be. I think that's going to be really important going forward, because you know, change is coming.
Yeah. So
we got to just be a part of it, and I'm excited about that, because that's going to be exciting. But yeah, you know, I'm thinking about that question about who's going to have dinner. I was not prepared for that one, but that's a great question.
Yeah, you know, and it comes down to, I mean, and you said a great point. I mean, it's being a fan first. You know, I don't think that any coach or student athlete or media person or person that's running a, you know, communications department, I don't think we could do any of this without being a fan first, right? You love it, and when you do what you love and you love what you do, you really don't work a day in your life. You know, people say, how do you know, you go to bed at 2, you wake up at 7, you got to do all this research, you got to know what's going on with all these teams. Why do you do it? And I said, simply, because I love people. I love bringing people together. I love learning about people, and I love being able to sit there on a Saturday and to look at somebody and go, oh yeah, well, I know the coach at Florida State, I know the quarterback in Miami, and the guy in North Carolina, that was a walk-on, and he came onto the team as a tight end, and he shifted to lineman, and he's going to go to the NFL, and it just means the world to me to have a lot of people that you love and support. And the sports world is very tiny, and the chances of reconnecting with people is really good, and it's wonderful. So I think what we get to do is a blessing, and I'm very happy that, you know, we get to have moments like this, like with Scottie Rodgers here, the Director of Communications with the Cotton Bowl Classic on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, coming to you from the ACC Kickoff on our 10-year anniversary of Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. Scottie, as always, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.